Hello and welcome to UV mapping part 2. Today I will just very quickly show you or walk you through all the functions and menus and all the other stuff in the texture editor. On this I'll just maximize it. We'll just go quickly through everything and I might show a quick example of some of the functions. And this is just very basic menu. You can import, export clips, set various properties, but this is nothing for a beginner. One thing which might interest you is preferences, because here you can do some stuff which is nice. You can set or check boxes which you can set here too in the buttons menu or in this toolbar. So yeah, this tab won't interest us. This can interest us. You can in the clips menu you can choose different clips textures. Clips means textures. You can take none, which is not very good because you don't see where your textures end, where your texture ends. And then the next thing which is useful sometimes is the checkerboard clip. It's very nice to measure if your UVs are evenly spaced across the texture, because you will notice if, for example, like the face has not enough space, it will blur, and your hand has way too much of your model, and the hand of your model of course has way too much space. It will look way sharper than your face, and you don't want this because the face is one of the most looked at parts of your model. I just had to minimize because my property window disappeared. Dim image, I use dim image because, well, I don't think you actually see it. No, you don't. Wait a second. If you choose auto, yeah, here you see it. The texture gets dimmed except in those areas which are covered by UV. This is actually very nice, usually. Next thing is grid. Show grid. Yeah, you want this usually. Units in UV or pixels. Well, that's not that important. This is nice sometimes, especially if your background of your texture is, for example, yellow. You don't want a yellow UV mesh, because if you bake the UV on the texture, you won't see it anymore. So you can change that into any color. I like blue. Blue is nice. Yeah, this is just the different colors of the components, like points. Next thing is highlighting. Yeah, right. If you put it over the other thing, it will get red. So you see, those are two UVs on top of each other. Sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't. So I have enabled coverage. It's nice because you see that this is covered by UVs. And alright, this shows which thing or which edge connects to another. These are blue too. No, they are, so this is nice too. You want this enabled usually. The next thing is edit. Here you can copy UVs from other models, create clusters, duplicate trees, just usual stuff, and stamp UV mesh. You could like this because this lets you stamp your UV mesh onto the texture, so you can texture on texture in Photoshop and know where your UVs are. Very useful. Anyways, next thing is, these are just tools. Yeah, this might be useful. Red, green, blue, alpha channel. Sometimes. this, if you have a big texture, it could, or it might not show inside here in the texture editor. So you want to enable the higher one. These are just the same in commands like you had in preferences. Tools, most of those are in the buttons toolbar, except like mirror horizontal, mirror vertical. You might want to remember those are nice. And relax, I will show them later though. All of them, most of them. Tuning mode. Yeah, all of those are here in the button toolbar too. Except those, grow selection, shrink selection and invert selection. Those are just the usual tools that you have in your modeling or whatever animating too. Snap will be here. Well, here are the settings you can assign to the snap function. Usually it's points. You can of course snap edges too and stuff, but points are usually enough. Shaders none. Clips. Yeah, clips, just textures. And UVs, different if you have different UVs for one model. Now onto the toolbar. This is the help button. We don't want a well, it's quite self-explanatory. Then lock actually means you can't. Oh well, I don't know what this means. Wait a second. What this does, I don't use it. Prevent the okay. This prevents the texture editor from updating the selection when you change your selection in the 3D viewport. So if you select another model, it won't be selected in the texture editor. Usually that's out. Disable. Yeah, this is you are updating the texture editor with this button to use the 3D selection. Clear texture editor. Well, this clears the texture editor from everything. You can update the 3D viewport to have the model selected you have selected in the texture editor. Okay, then tiering is nice usually. Well, you want to know it because well, we show it later. Polygon dating. I forgot what this is. Let's do it later. These are the three different component selection tools. One is U stands for point. Well, it is point. E is edge. P is polygon. So now that we know these, I can use polygon and tiering mode and select those polygons and tier them away. If I don't have tiering enabled, I will move all those. But if I have tiering enabled, I don't. And these are actually those polygons and these are the others. If I don't have tiering enabled, these points stick together. Then let's switch back to points. And these are some... no, it's no use to maximize it actually. The buttons don't get bigger. So any selection filter. What is this? Don't know. Looks like it just selects points. Island is not. So all means you can select edges, points, and polygons. Okay, we switch back to points and enable island. Island means this is our island. This is one merged. Oh yeah, this is one UV part which is disconnected from the others. This is one island. This is cluster. So if you have clusters, don't have any clusters, so you can't select anything. Switch it off. Yeah, these are some tools. This just shows the selected. This hides the selected. And this these are the same like if you have the menus, dim and match, either overlaps, odd overlaps. Well, no, I don't want to cause time. They should stay like this. Highlight coverage, here highlighted, and here it's dim. And these are the blue edges and stuff. Tools. Move component tool, yeah, this space is just a basic selection tool, and move component tool is like you can move one point, you can maybe move, no. Or if you have on hit, you can move these two, and even polygons. Yeah, let's continue. Next one is the collapse tool. Well, this is not really that helpful, but it is a bit helpful. For example, you have this, but those aren't connected, those points, those are two single points. So if you select with island select, you will always select these, yeah, well, you won't select, you select this point, those down there too. So you can just go ahead and collapse those, do it twice to be sure, then it should work. Oh no, it does not. Maybe because they aren't actually fitting together, those polygons, or they aren't, there are no edges which are connected, but usually it should work like this. It connects the points together, the points you selected. Yep. So works. Usually you can use it for that, but I'd use snapping for that usually. Next one is collapse, but row collapse. Collapse to horizontal line. Horizontal is, for example, if you have this is usually not that nice for UVs. You usually want straight lines, unless it's really not well, it really is not very useful to you and it takes a lot of time, then it's not worth making straight lines. But for this it's very quick, you just select all of those and make a nice straight line. The next one is the same command just for vertical lines. Nice too. Sometimes better for UVing and baking and stuff, texture and baking, but not always. Always depends. The next one is heal. Let's disconnect. It doesn't here. This should actually work. Yes, you can just heal them together. Now they're one island. It works better than collapse. Heal those. No, it's not useful. Oh, yeah, next one is, what is it? Island heal to picked. Well, these are just different versions of heal. Less this one is match. That's a weird command. I don't really understand them. I'm gonna just try out island heal to picked. Well, this is weird. I've tested it before making this tutorial, and I don't really know what this does. I don't know. I don't think it really speeds up your workflow that much. So I just yeah, don't talk about those three. Next one are weird commands too. Well, these are actually cycling the polygons clockwise and counterclockwise, but it's you see this weird command. It fit nicely before. Now I believe every one of those polygons are cycle counterclockwise. I don't know about how much, maybe 90 degree, maybe more, less, 90 or 180. And now I don't fit again. I don't fit anymore. Not really that useful. Then flip should be, well, just to see the difference I will make this one line. Wait a second. No. We will make this one line. Select. We can nicely apply our tools here. Tearing mode. And now we will select all of this and flip it. Well, this is weird too. If you want to flip or mirror, then use mirror horizontal, mirror vertical tool. Next one, what is this? Y projection selection. Ah, right. This selects one of those projection planes. Yeah, and there you see it's UVs. Well, yeah. Sometimes useful, sometimes not. Then these are nice, most used maybe tools for me. Anyways, subprojections. Well, it's actually the same like the projection you choose here, but per model you usually have multiple of those and only one of those. Yeah, well, yeah, these are just planar, cylindrical, spherical, cubic, and these walking on a mesh and things. I don't use those very often. Actually, not at all. So I don't know much about them. What's next? What's next? Well, I will show example for those in another tutorial video. So we'll just go on UV coordinates. Yeah. Well, you can maybe, yeah, you could actually move UVs per coordinate or to a defined specific coordinate if you want to. Usually not that useful. Then what is this? Split components. I think, as far as I know, this. Yeah, all this splits the I don't know for sure. I know that it's nice to have enabled because if you don't, projections, sub-projections, and maybe even those main projections won't work real nice. I believe if you now would apply a cylindrical projection, they wouldn't be split at this one point. Just right out. Best fit. You see, this line is the point where the projection should be split, and it is split. You don't really see it, but it is split here on this one line. And if you don't have it, as far as I know, it won't be split. This one will be then, it will be evenly spaced, but the last, the polygons which are running, you know, right near or next to this line are stretched, and so to not split it, but to have one whole remesh. Well, that's not a really good explanation, but just let it enabled. Then here just the usual tools: scale, rotate, and transform, or translate. Snapping is nice. We'll just undo this one. Snapping is really useful. Just select those points, then enable translate tool. Then you can either toggle snapping by pressing this button, or just hold down S, what you call it, control CTRL, and click the point you want it to move, and connect it or snap or whatever. Very useful, very often useful. You use it very often, and it's always useful. Next one is set pivot tool. Alright, this is, you will just set a pivot, and pivot is down there, so you can set the pivot for it. So if you turn it, it will always get rotated around the pivot. And this one is, what is this? Pivot, and let's check pivot, and actually activate. Right. This is. Yeah, not activated. Activated. On the way around. Activated. Not activated. This is tool to set it. Okay. Well, sometimes useful. Usually not. Well, not used very often by me, and I dare say I'm rather good at UVing. So yeah, maybe not that useful to beginners, unless you can really incorporate it in your workflow. And yeah, well, I think that's it for this lesson. Well, we can just do this down there. This is the UV coordinates of your mouse, of your cursor, in pixels.